Archie's TV Laugh Out, issue 32. Harvey at least apologizes when he tells Sabrina he doesn't have the money to take her to the dance tonight. Why would that require money? All they'd have to do is show up and dance. Wouldn't they have their clothes from last dance? Sabrina's broke too, and then Harvey finds a 4-leaf clover and wonders if this is his lucky day and he'll be able to get some money. She doubts it, and so does Hilda, disproving it entirely. So Hilda uses magic to make him slip on a skate she just conjured up. He still believes in the clover out of desperation. I wonder how Sabrina can't get rid of Hilda's powers temporarily to avoid a lot of these moments. And Hilda splashes Harvey with water. Sabrina calls her out and tells Harvey considerately that she'll get him a towel. Hilda slips. Somehow Harvey doesn't hear what happened to Hilda and keeps talking, and he throws the clover onto some money he didn't see, no longer believing in it. This story's about Hilda trying to prove to Harvey that 4-leaf clovers don't work by using magic to bother him for a while. It's annoying because he didn't do anything to deserve it, and Sabrina could have used magic to make Hilda not want to bother him the second time. Something did happen to Hilda, but that was only once and not as bad, and Harvey didn't even see it. Archie's TV Laugh Out, issue 33. Sabrina wonders if there's a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, because her life as a witch is so fantastical that she's got an unrealistic idea of reality. She levitates herself to the end and finds a note saying, "You're at the wrong end, dum-dum." Then Sabrina's biking behind someone who says that her dad is a pilot and gives flying lessons. Sabrina says that so does Hilda, and we see that she opened up a broom navigation school for apprentice witches. I wish this wasn't just a one-off gag, and she always had a job. Sabrina says she doesn't want to miss this TV special. Hilda reminds her that she still has to write a composition for school, and the story ends with a pencil writing it for her because she used magic. I'm glad it ended before it could repeat the dull magic pencil joke, so I can assume that it actually worked out for her. Then someone says to Weatherby that Sabrina's very conscientious because she volunteered to do extra work in the chem lab. Sabrina's wearing a shirt that says she's American, but American is spelled the English way. And predictably, she only volunteered because she somehow thinks this is the best place in town to mix her potions, when she would think her house was the best place. She wouldn't get caught there. She could zap up vials wherever she wants. Sabrina wishes Harvey were at the lockers because she misses him, and casts a spell, commanding Harvey to appear in the locker room. For some reason he doesn't show up right away, when she would warp him to her instantly. She naturally assumes that her magic must not be working today, so she decides to go home. Predictably he does show up. The janitor finds him trapped in a locker. This was just comedy pages. I liked the first few. Archie's TV Laugh Out, issue 34. This is the comedy page where Harvey can't find a station with any gas left. Sabrina uses magic to create a gas container and says she just found it on the road, but somehow it's empty. And she thinks there's an energy crisis in the Hex world too. Or rather, she says it out loud in front of him for some reason. She would just imagine that there's gas in it, so this wouldn't happen. How is this meant to be funny? If the spirits are magical, they'd be able to create as much gas as they need. Then in Bottle Battle, Harvey's having trouble getting the ketchup out of a ketchup bottle. We didn't need the panels before this. Sabrina uses magic to loosen it up for him. Somehow he decides to look at its cap, wondering why it doesn't come out, so the ketchup sprays on his face. I feel bad for him, but I can't help but smile. So that was funny, but it wasn't very likely. It'd be more likely that her spell would cause him to just keep doing what he had been doing and then send the ketchup out on the right thing, because that's what she'd have thought about. Archie's TV Laugh Out, issue 35. Harvey tells Sabrina they should swim in Veronica's pool while they're at London. Sabrina naturally says it was nice of her family to leave an open invitation for teenagers to use the pool whenever they wanted to. She walks into her house and uses magic to get into her bathing suit right away. So Harvey comments on how fast she changed. Even the water is hot because it's such a hot day. Jughead says that Betty's treating him to ice cream, and Reggie acts annoyingly confident, telling them to think cool thoughts to feel less hot, and he splashes Sabrina when he jumps into the pool. He says that splashing people wouldn't be fun if they didn't hate it, and further provokes her by splashing her again and saying that if she could control her mind like he supposedly can, she could tell herself she liked it. I'm glad he was written to behave this way because she would have looked mean if she punished him right after splashing her the first time, because it looked like she was just punishing him for an accident. Harvey calls him out on this and gets splashed as well. Reggie's arrogance causes them to leave, and Sabrina uses magic to turn the pool into ice, and him bouncing comically high off it was also a part of the spell, I guess. He crashes into the tree and thinks that too much control over his mind can be dangerous. This story was about Reggie being a jerk in Veronica's pool, which eventually causes Sabrina to punish him for his arrogance by using magic. And you'd think he'd realize that magic exists, instead of blaming himself. But it was a lot nicer of Veronica to let all of her friends use the pool instead of saying that only she can use the pool. Archie's TV Laugh-Out issue 36. Sadly, the art is washed out. A woman says that Harvey will love the picnic lunch basket she prepared. Sabrina doesn't want her to steal Harvey. Since this is a comedy page, I'm guessing she'll fail at sabotaging this girl. She decides to change the contents of it into snails. That would work if they were still alive, but instead he's excited over them, just like Donald was when she did this in that Madhouse story. This gag isn't original, but its context is. What was Sabrina thinking? She would have just replaced the food with burnt food or garbage. Then Sabrina's fairy witch mother, who looks just like Hilda, flies over to Sabrina's classroom in a shrunken form holding her school report, saying that she forgot it at home. Since she shouted at her, you'd think that her classmates would hear this and look at her and freak out. But we don't see their reactions. Sabrina thanks her, and Hilda says she broke her broom, and somehow wonders how she'll ever get home now, when witches can teleport. Sabrina throws a paper airplane with her in it, and she cheerfully waves goodbye. Surprisingly, Rosalind shows up again, and it's in a 70s comedy page. Sabrina thinks that she's gossiping about her again, so naturally she hates her for it, and wants to put the worst curse imaginable on her. She says, "May her princess phone never ring again." Now right after this issue came out Archie Giant Series 243, and that's a separate video from this, and after that is Sabrina 70s Comics Snow Go. Sabrina wakes up in the morning and levitates a clock over to her. Hilda asks her if she's going to see Harvey this morning and says that they need someone with a strong back and weak mind to shovel the laneway. So she just wants to be mean to Harvey, naturally because he's really clumsy. So that's why she doesn't zap the snow away. Sabrina uses magic to get rid of the snow, but someone asked her how she did that, and it's nice that he's just happy about it. But with all the times that witchcraft is used in front of mortals and it's just brushed off with them just thinking they hallucinated, with the main characters acting like it never happened, it feels like forced tensions have it be made a big deal out of now. Hilda forces the tension by scolding Sabrina for being irresponsible and being paranoid of the civilian when both of them can erase memories. So obviously she just asked her to erase his memory of that, not waste an entire page. Sabrina's seen talking to the civilian, and Hilda thinks she's liable to do something to make things worse. So she wants to warn her, rather than simply erasing his memory. Sabrina lies to him that he just imagined what he saw and the walks aren't clear. So she uses magic to get the snow back, and he runs away screaming in fear, which is out of character because before, he was just happy and impressed, not scared. Sabrina has a good point when she tells Hilda that nobody will believe his story. Hilda somehow thinks they will, after all of her experience with being a witch and getting away with people assuming that they just hallucinated. So after she uses magic to get rid of the snow, she tells Sabrina to leave the zapping to her. She says that she wants that snow here and now. She then summons snow in the house because she forgot she was in the house. The story ends with Hilda uncharacteristically shoveling snow in the house because she's so scared of someone witnessing her zapping it away, even though she could just close the door first. And someone says that he's had tons of hallucinations around this house, but he's cheerful about it instead of horrified, somehow. This story sucked. Hilda wouldn't freak out so much about a civilian witnessing Sabrina use magic to get rid of the snow in her laneway, because witches can just brainwash mortals and erase their memories at will. Sabrina wouldn't freak out either. She'd just do that to them right away, since she did to Harvey. It'd be far more in character for Della to freak out about this than Hilda, but Sabrina is much more likely to lie and make someone doubt their perception of reality. So it's in character for her to not do it immediately. Maybe she feels bad while memory racing, so she saves it for a last resort. But still, this is a stupidly forced bit of conflict to waste the entire story on. I'm just glad it's not a story about, say, Dell yelling at Sabrina for causing a snow day, when she shouldn't care. Archie's TV Laugh Out issue 38. Ice Folly. Sabrina looks forward to ice skating with Harvey again and hopes she hasn't forgotten how, because this is the first time the pond's frozen in 2 years. She could have just frozen the pond herself. Sabrina can skate fine, and they see Hilda carrying skates. Somehow, she always said she was a good skater as a child. But were there any skates in the 1600s? Maybe she means in the Hex world. She replies sarcastically that she's posing for the cover of Arctic Allure, and complains about the cold herself. Some other people complain about it, and Hilda zaps up some hot soup in a cauldron. It doesn't even seem like it's evil magic potion to freak them out. It's like it's actual soup. So that's oddly nice of her. Maybe it should have been Zelda. Hilda somehow thinks they used to have warmer winters. She'd be accurate if she meant colder winters because global warming happened. Or she used to live somewhere warmer, like the other realm. Harvey asks her if she used to have warmer blood when she was young, and she gets mad enough to not abuse her magic against him, but instead give herself a hot spell, which melts the ice. So she falls into the cold water and she has to be pulled out. They think she won't last a minute in this cold air, so they take drastic measures and put her in the hot soup to thaw her out. This story is about Sabrina ice skating with Harvey, and apparently Hilda's trying to do that too, but she gets some really bad luck. And it's interesting that Hilda is nicer than you'd expect in this story. Archie's TV Laugh Out 39 was in the 70s Sabrina comic. I reviewed it. Archie's TV Laugh Out issue 40. I've got a ticket to run. Hilda says she wanted to see a great stage play herself, but you can't buy a ticket anywhere. Sabrina says Harvey was lucky to get 2 tickets for them, but in his haste to get here, he forgot to bring them. Let me guess, he's gonna lose them or they're gonna get destroyed. Surprisingly, no. Instead, he splashes mud on his clothes on the way back. He tells her to wait here while he goes to change. Let me guess. He'll spend so much time telling her to wait that she won't get to see the play. Then Harvey runs up to Sabrina without pants on, and Sabrina refuses to go with him until he puts pants on, instead of simply zapping pants on him while he's still oblivious. He runs home embarrassed, and Sabrina tells him to hail a taxi, but he forgot his wallet. He runs away again. Hilda asks what's keeping him this time, and tells Sabrina to go over to his house and find out what happened. She isn't very surprised that he fainted and fell asleep after all of that running. It's impressive that reality ensued. Surprisingly, Sabrina does get to watch the play, and Hilda watches it with her instead of him. That's smart of them, but Sabrina could have used magic to make Harvey feel better, so they didn't have to do that. And that was kind of out of character of Sabrina. I've got to commend the story on surprising me with so many twists, because it was already predictable that he'd keep running back and forth. This was a story where Harvey tries to go to a play with Sabrina, but he keeps running back and forth because he keeps forgetting stuff. It was funny at one point, but eventually he passes out, and for some reason Sabrina doesn't heal him to wake him up. Well, if there's one bit of magic that I've barely ever seen witches do in the Sabrina series, it's healing magic. It's still been done, but it's rare enough that I guess I can assume that they can't do that, but if they can summon things, then they should be able to. Archie's TV Laugh Out issue 41. Harvey tells Sabrina at her house that he shouldn't have to pay for a movie when they can see movies for free on TV. He's right. And the point of a date is to spend time with someone you like, so it shouldn't matter to her if it's a crowded movie theater or not. She's got more expensive taste and says that she'll go out with someone else because of this. You'd think a date at home would be more enjoyable because you'd just be alone with that person instead of having to be in the same room with a bunch of strangers. It'd be less pressure that way. But all Sabrina wants to do is go to the movies. And apparently it's to the point where she'll go out of character and arrange a date with Reggie to get that. Reggie's a prankster who isn't even above pranking her. So she'd lecture him on that a lot, even if he stopped mistreating her. If little Sabrina's any indication, she can't get him to stop. He's also suspected her of being a witch before and tried to prove it, so he's too smart for her. But that's just me remembering how he is in Little Archie. I know Archie's focused on Benny and Veronica, and she wouldn't want to get the two of them mad at her, and Jughead's not interested in dating. So Reggie's the only option left in her group of friends, but I never understood why he was considered part of their group of friends in the first place. I guess it's his idea to be with them? She'd know plenty of other guys because she'd be in the same class as them. I get that she's trying to spite Harvey and try to change his mind, and who better to do that than Reggie? But there's so many other guys she could call that she'd actually have a fun date with. Well, I guess the reason she doesn't sap up another Harvey is that she doesn't want word to spread and get caught, or she didn't think of it. I am excited to see this intriguing premise because she's never dated Reggie before. I couldn't wait to read this issue after I read its summary months ago, but it's so silly. Sabrina gets called out on this, naturally because she's cheating on Harvey and right in front of him. Normally the goody two-shoes Sabrina would never do this, but that's kind of something I love about 70s Sabrina. That she isn't above shaking things up and doing something selfish like a realistic teenager. And it happens enough to make up for when you can't relate to her because she's too good. And she's not constantly about honor before reason and preaching about it. So I don't get mad and confused when she does do bad things. Besides, she's just trying to teach him a lesson. It's not like she actually loves Reggie, so he's not a real threat to their relationship as long as Harvey doesn't break it off. She pushes him out the door, wanting to get ready for a date, and Harvey actually cries. Wow, he does care about their relationship. He says he best she wouldn't act that way if he told her he was going with another girl to a drive-in. And then decides to use an inflatable doll from the novelty shop and his mom's wig to make Sabrina change her tune. Isn't it obvious she'd just get mad at him and not be in the mood to date him? At least I'm proud of him for not actually planning on going with another girl like I thought he would. He borrows a dress from his mom as well, and Sabrina sees Harvey in the drive-in. I'm pretty disappointed that the story just followed Harvey so far. It would be annoying to see Reggie be Reggie, but we didn't need to see any of Harvey's preparation for this because Sabrina was gonna find out it was just a doll anyways. So we're just missing out on the dialogue between her and Reggie that I thought I was gonna see. I already saw a story in Little Sabrina where he asked her out on a date, and he just pranked her by expecting her to go fishing to get a fish dinner. Even then, that was harmless compared to other pranks of his. Somehow Reggie is confused that Sabrina wants to go tell Harvey off for cheating on her. She tries to hit him with the purse. Still abuse. You can tell if you switch the genders. She says oops when she hits the wig off his doll, and there's a blam sound and a flash of light that keeps me from seeing what it is, and then there's some yellow smoke where the doll's head should be for some reason as she screams. I guess I'm supposed to believe that she hit the head off the doll, as we see in the next panel. And since Sabrina is used to having an unrealistic life, it does make sense that she'd instinctively assume something unscientific happened, and she hit harder than she actually could. She could be assuming her magic made her hit harder. Harvey tells her the truth, and Reggie snarks, "A dummy." Now that's what I call a matched set. Lucky for him, Harvey and Sabrina are merciful enough to not call him out on a snarky remark. Even though that'd be an easy opportunity for the story to remind us that Sabrina loves Harvey by getting her to stand up for him. But he is being a dummy right now. And she's right, he did spend money to go to the drive-in anyways. And now it's more insulting because he wasted the money going with a doll to teach her a lesson instead of going with her in the first place, when he really should have humored his girlfriend right away. Sabrina calls him out on scaring her, and he says he just wanted attention to downplay it. She uses magic to make the dummy come to life and run after Harvey, and shockingly, the story just ends there, with Reggie wanting Sabrina to tell him he's just hallucinating, when in a lot of stories he knows she's a witch, so he wouldn't even react like that. Of course, it's easy to figure out how Reggie would have been acting on the date. It would have been annoying to see him brag about himself and make up long stories, like in the 70s cartoon. I guess it would have been like that episode of the cartoon where she invited him to her house out of pity. Only they'd be in a drive-in safe from Hilda. But I'm more annoyed by the missed opportunity than it would have been reading the dialogue he was supposed to have for even one measly panel where we could have seen how the date was going. As far as we see here, the date was going fine, as if she was dating anybody else. The fact that it was Reggie created false hype when it didn't actually matter. I once wanted to see him prank Sabrina again either. I don't like anything unique to his character in Archie, but 1 or 2 panels of him being Reggie were necessary to take advantage of a plot like this. In this story, Sabrina thinks Harvey's too cheap to go out with her and goes out with Reggie of all people instead, without even explaining that Archie's busy. You'd think the plot would follow her, the main character of the series. I thought the story would be about what it'd be like if Sabrina went out on a date with Reggie for change. Ignoring the plot hole that there'd be tons of better guys out there than someone who can't be trusted not to prank her, or at least not be annoying, and so she wouldn't have considered him. I was so excited to see a comic about this. She could have gone out with anybody and the plot would be the same. Instead, the plot entirely follows Harvey, unnecessarily showing his preparations where he gets an inflatable doll to trick Sabrina at the drive-in, when she's with Reggie to teach him a lesson about being cheap. Because the story was wasted on showing how he got the doll when it could have just explained that after she saw it, we never got to see how Reggie and Sabrina interacted on the date itself.